I always love knowing that you all are paying attention. I mean, fundamentally, I hope that you're all just, listening or watching and enjoying the show. But I also love when you are all paying attention, being the most informed fans you can possibly be. And one of you, I should have pulled up the name because you know what? One moment. Dylan, good sir. I appreciate it. I made an omission yesterday on the show, and that was just not a Freudian slip. That's not the right term, but just a slip of the mind, an error. What my old history and government professor or teacher in high school, Mr. Noble, would call a moment of cerebral flatulence, brain fart, essentially. I forgot that Oregon added Brandon Angel. Literally, I've talked about him on the show before. I like what he brings to the Ducks. And yesterday, when I was talking through what a projected lineup would look like, now that Raheem Moss has been added from Toledo, who was a first-team All-Guy, I'll get to him a little bit more in just a sec, I forgot that Brandon Angel has come over from Stanford for his final year of eligibility. And when I had that pointed out to me, I had two thoughts. Number one, Spencer, you dummy. How could you possibly forget that? Number two, holy crap, this team is loaded. The amount of talent on this team is crazy. And I still have not heard, and there hasn't been any buzz about Andr Dante getting a sixth year of eligibility. And look, if he gets that, Oregon should be one of the favorites in the Big Ten. The roster is absolutely that stacked. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You would have so much depth, size, athleticism, shooting. Everything would be there. It would all be there with a sophomore point guard who I think we all really like and a great guy in Keyshawn Bartholomew backing him up. Oh, man, it'd be incredible if Dante's back. But even if Dante isn't back, let's say the NCAA says, no, sorry, your college career is unfortunately over, which would be it's a bummer because that's a tough way for a guy who's had a heck of a career and has been a Duck through and battled through injuries so many times over and over and just kept pushing. And here he was having the 2-week stretch of his career, couldn't hit a free throw, go to overtime, and then Oregon runs out of gas. That would stink, but let's say that comes to pass. Even without Dante, this Oregon lineup is absolutely loaded. And I'm starting the hype train right now in the month of May because they deserve it. And I talked when the season ended about how the Ducks making a run to the tournament through the Pac-12 tournament, beating South Carolina, almost beating Creighton, I felt like it captured and created momentum that the program didn't have. It felt like it was trending in the opposite direction. Not that Dana Altman still couldn't coach, but it felt like, a third straight year missing the tournament, that's a much different feel than a team that was that close to the Sweet 16. And I think Dana Altman bringing in Tony Stubblefield, who was formerly the head coach at DePaul, which is a tough place to be, I think that has kind of kickstarted some momentum in the transfer portal world. And they've brought in a couple of guys who are really highly coveted transfers and are going to be really good players with the Ducks. If Dante's back, gosh, be one of the most stacked Oregon basketball rosters in recent memory. Even if he isn't back, though, this is still a loaded lineup because you have Shellstad at the point. Raheem Moss is going to start at the 2. You're probably looking at some combination of Brandon Angel, KJ Evans, Nate Biddle, Bam Tracy as your forwards. I mean, that's something I think Dana will probably tinker around with a lot in the early portion of the season. Certainly they have to manage Biddle's minutes to try to keep him healthy and on the court. But when he's there, that is a high impact player. But when you have those guys, you have 6 to 7 starting caliber players, right? Shellstad, we know. Moss, we know. We've seen Bam Tracy start on the team that just went to the round of 32. KJ Evans, Nate Biddle when healthy, Brandon Angel. And we don't really know what Mookie Cook is, the former 5-star freshman. So it's hard to know if he's a starting caliber player. Certainly his high school film would indicate yes, but those 6 guys plus Keyshawn Bartholomew can start places. And I think Bartholomew is the perfect 6-man off the bench. He is my ideal 6-man. Come in and score. Shoot, 3-level score, finish at the rim, mid-range, just come in and score. He's awesome. So really glad he's back and hope he's healthy. But if you have a lineup of guys where Angel has had outstanding seasons at Stanford, Moss is off a first-team All-MAC selection this past year, you bring back your 2 5-stars who were starters on your team a year ago. How much more talent, how much more excited can you get as an Oregon fan looking at the way they've been working? And it's been fantastic. And it took a little while. Admittedly, it took a little while. And it's been worth the wait. Like I'm on the hype train here. This could be a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, with or without Andr Dante. And I wanted to do a little bit more digging on Raheem Moss. And I'll get to a question about him in just a second. But I reached out to a coach I know who has actually coached against him in the Mid-American Conference last year. Scouting report goes like this, quote, attacking guard, good vision, I'll get to that more in just a second, rebounds well for a perimeter, knack for the ball, not a great shooter, but can make shots with his feet set, physical player, plays with an edge. Jermaine Couisnard, you have been reincarnated, at least in the best possible fashion for the Ducks here. Now, he's probably at the Power 5 level closer to a 10-point-a-game scorer than a 15-point-a-game scorer, which is what he was this past year with the Rockets. But still, when you look at the depth of scoring and talent Oregon has, I think that's okay. I think that is okay. And one quick thing before I move on here, Cliff Emery is the Rutgers transfer center who I've talked about before on the show, could have been a target. Don't think Oregon's going to go after him. I think they're either going to welcome Andr Dante back as a boost that they're not expecting yet, or they might be done in the portal. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. But remember, you can enter the portal during a certain window. This applies for all sports. You can exit at any time. So you never know how that could go. But a comment came in about Moss saying this. This is my take after watching the App State game. His ceiling is high, but on offense, he went to the corner like a wing and stood there. Other times he got into the rotation, but was in the corner way too much. Off ball, his demeanor was interesting. He showed high energy, while other times his energy was lacking. He turned the ball over way too much. After saying that, I felt he was most talented player on the court. Hopefully Dana can fine-tune his game. So I wouldn't look too heavily into what his role was at Toledo for, a given stretch in a game. And that game, interestingly enough, in its full capacity, is available to watch on YouTube. So I watched a couple media timeouts. I think that his court vision and playmaking is outstanding. I mean, his float game is remarkable, but his ability to see the floor and pass when he drives is Couisnard-esque. And this is a guy who averaged 3 assists a game last year. I don't think he'll be a 15-point-a-game scorer for the Ducks. I think he'll be an 11 and 12-point-a-game guy, and he'll rebound the ball well, and I think he can facilitate too. So I am really, really high on this addition. I don't know if he's got the high-end production that Couisnard had this past year in terms of his overall scoring output, but Oregon doesn't need that. I expect Shellstad and Evans to take jumps. Brandon Angel can score. Nate Biddle can score. I just look at what Oregon's got here. Depth, talent, athleticism, size, shooting. It's all there. It's all there. And if Dante comes back, holy smokes, it'll literally be too talented of a team. Like, someone could transfer out if Dante comes back or decide not to come to. Like, Angel could decide, no, I don't know if Oregon's a spot for me with Andr Dante there. But we'll wait and see what happens here. But I absolutely love where this roster is at. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, go Ducks.